Let us know. Okay, excellent. All right, Monday, January 9th, 2023. We'll call the Library Board of Directors meeting to order, starting with a roll call. Please state your name for the board members here. Jeff.
Jeff Gunderson here.
Okay, Armel.
Amel Futterman here.
Amir.
Amir Movafagi here.
Andy.
Andy Ravel here.
Okay, I'm Jonathan Shambroom, Chair. I'm here. So with roll call complete, our first order of business in the agenda is the public comment. It's item number 2. Are there members of the public that are here present and wish to have the floor with public comment? Nick or Dan, I imagine you're able to see that.
I can see, and there are nobody in the audience tonight.
Okay. With no present public comments, we'll move to item number 3, board member reports and comments, and additional information relating to library and/or library groups. Okay. Are there the library groups present and ready to? We have the report from library support groups later in item number 6. So are there any issues that the board wishes to bring up prior to hearing future items? Okay, hearing none. I don't have any myself. Okay, item number 4, the director's oral report. Nick or Dan, do you want to handle that?
Yeah, absolutely. I just have a couple of updates for you. I know I think it's been since October since the last meeting, and in that time the Commons Foundation had a wonderful art event at the award ceremony at the library on December 8th. I wasn't there, but it apparently went really well. Really good attendance, and people had a great time. And Teresa let me know that. Teresa's also was excited to let everyone know that she's starting up the Tamalpais Book Club again, which is a monthly book club meeting that she does at the Tamalpais Retirement Center. It's just been on break since COVID, and they're starting up again in February.
Right.
And those are 2 of the main updates for you.
I'll just add one thing, Nick. The governor intends to lift his state of emergency order on February 28th. So the board will have to make a decision about how it wants to conduct its business starting in March. You'll either have to do it entirely by Zoom and publish your location. Each of you would have to announce publish where you are, and theoretically make your location accessible to the public, or you'll need to resume meeting in person. So we'll put out a memo. The city attorney's drafted something that we're deciphering a little bit, and then we'll put something out.
Dan, by when do we need to decide that?
It'll be you can't, starting in March, you'll have to follow the rules, the new rules, which are kind of a weird hodgepodge of the old rules and post-COVID. But unfortunately, this format didn't pass muster. It was before the legislature to be made permanent, and it didn't pass muster.
Okay.
So are those new rules available already?
Well, the attorney's given us a deciphering of the legislation that passed. So we're trying to, I'd like to make it a little more, a little less lawyerly and a little more people friendly. Excuse me. So we'll give you something soon.
So if we decide to resume meeting in person, where would that be?
At City Hall.
And City Hall would still be accessible?
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any other additional or important conditions if we were to wish to resume in person at City Hall? Is it that straightforward, or are there anything new to your knowledge from that rules and legislation? So
Well, that's the most straightforward, simple way to comply.
okay.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, I joined the school board last year, and we were back to being in person right away. So it's happening at the Hall Middle School, and it's been live. It has the same dynamic. You can still dial in remote, but you just have to disclose your location.
Okay.
Are there, and if we have an appetite, assuming we go back to monthly, I assume we have the option to get back in person next month, right? We don't have to wait, obviously.
You don't have to wait. You
Yeah.
just don't have a choice starting in March.
Got
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Yeah.
Dan, will you facilitate the communication and the decision around that just by messaging to us, and then we can decide how to proceed?
We'll take care of that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Anything else under item 4, which was the director's oral report, but we added some items in there.
Since we took up this item, Barbara Friday's in the audience. I don't know if you want to give her any opportunity to speak on the prior item.
Hi, Barbara. You're welcome to speak now. There is also a future item, which is report from support groups, friends and foundations, but as a member of public, and also but you're welcome to add any public comment you'd like right now.
No, Jonathan, if I missed anything, you can fill me in, and I'll just wait to give input later.
Okay. The most exciting news so far is we may begin meeting in person.
Yeah, I heard that. Thanks.
Okay, excellent. So on to item number 5, business items, and 5.1 staffing update. So Dan Schwartz, I pass this to you.
Thank you. By now, you all are aware that the library is in a bit of transition. At the moment, Nick is serving as the interim director for community services. We've brought in a part-time librarian on a more regular basis to supplement our 2 existing incumbents, and that seems to be working well from a service standpoint, while Nick and I get an opportunity to sort of assess operations, interview the staff, and make some decisions about how we'll proceed in terms of the vacancy in the management position. I'm also excited to announce we're very close to hiring a librarian. So we'll fill the 3rd vacancy that we've had for a little bit here among our core librarian ranks. But of course, the big issue is we have this vacancy in the management position. Probably within the next 2 weeks, Nick and I will finish our assessment of the department and decide how we'll proceed from there. In the past, when we've done the hiring of a manager for the library, we've tried to find a way to incorporate stakeholders. So we'll try to do that again. So probably be a discussion with the board at a future meeting about how the board's input might be brought into the process to some degree. I don't yet have a timetable for the recruitment, but I'm thinking it'll probably be a 4 to 6 month process in total. So in the meantime, Nick's going to pull some double duty, and I'm really pleased with Teresa and Jess. They've stepped up, been real team players during this challenge, and we're all just going to make it work so the public doesn't perceive that there's any deficiency in service. It's not the first time I've had to do this, so you just make it work. And that's really where we are right now. Nick, do you have anything you want to add?
No, not really.
I have a question, which is just on public communication. What is the message that you either have shared, or if asked by public that you would share as to, what happened to Franklin? Is he okay? Or what prompted this change? If somebody in the public were to ask, any of us, is there a response that we can be unified around?
You can just tell them the management positions in transition. You're not aware of any health concerns with Franklin.
Okay.
So this, I have a couple questions there. During this 4 or 6 months of transition, how will Larkspur Library will be represented at the county level and at the state in these various other organizations that help us function? Marine
So in the-
Net and all of that. There is way more than, I appreciate that the library will remain open and that the patron will not really see it, but then on the other hand, we have a lot of services that we get from others, and that's part of the role of the director. So how is that going to work?
Yeah, so in the last transition period for the library, I represented the library at the county level. So I notified the county, they flipped some switch, and all of a sudden I'm getting about 50 emails a day about libraries at the county level. So I will continue to serve in that capacity. Teresa Capassa is familiar with the filing requirements and the contact people at the state. So she'll help us there to make sure that we maintain communications. And in fact, because of the library grant for building the new library, Julian Skinner, our public works director, and I are actually listed as the state library's contacts at the moment because we're managing that grant. So we haven't had a blip there. We've had a pretty seamless transition in that regard.
You're going to have a lot of extra work to do.
Possibly. I have a really good relationship with several of the library directors. A few of them pull double duty as library directors and other management positions in their organizations, and I work with them quite frequently. So they're all offering to chip in just like they did last time. It's a pretty tight family in the Marin Library universe. So I expect we'll get a lot of help.
You have managed this before too, Dan. So, if you should feel pretty comfortable. And if you think we could be of any assistance with anything, don't hesitate to, ask any of us. And, that what is very key is the grant from the state. And so that's really good that you're the sort of the principal on that. So that's key for the, consistency there.
In all confession, though, I asked them to put Julian because he's far more organized than I am. So he's the one who's getting all the barrage of emails.
Okay.
Well, but those are for the library, the construction of the library, not so much the running of the current program.
That's right. And so Teresa will be doing the filings with the state and monitoring for the operational grant opportunities that may be coming across in the next few months.
Great.
So you mentioned also that you were going to be within the next 2 weeks having a better idea of what is needed at the management position. Do you expect that the job description will be library director like it was in the past, or that it will be more community service director, which is very different from just being a librarian and library manager? Or
that's one of the discussions that we're having.
So you're going to let us know before the next meeting?
I'll let you know when we've made a decision.
Of course. The earlier the better, so that we know what we do and what to expect.
I'll reiterate a sentiment from Jeff, which is an offer and a request to you, Dan, which is please let us know how we can help. I mean, we're all here as stewards of the community for the library, for the interest of, how that benefits and serves the community. I mean, I'll speak for myself. I want to help any way I can. So just please let us know whether it's, during or after the assessment, if you need a sounding board, if you need resources, if if there's any part of this process, I mean, that's why we're here, involved with the library. The director position, however it's refilled, is obviously critical. So, please know the board is here to help.
Well, during periods of transition, particularly in our departments and divisions that most touch the public, the thing we need the most support for is knowing what you're hearing on the ground from your friends, your neighbors, what they're observing, because they know you're the ambassador for the library, and it's likely they'll mention to you. And as you said, people may be asking you what's going on. And as that conversation evolves, you may get some feedback. And if you hear interesting things, please share them with us so we can incorporate it in our thought process.
Yep.
That is very true, but it's also a two-way street, that we also will be fielding questions from neighbors, friends, patrons. And the more information you can give us, the more accurate all the information that travels throughout the city will be representative of what's really happening, of what is happening. So we will welcome information and we will pass it along.
I don't have anything else to add to the conversation at the moment. Nick will be your main contact in terms of day-to-day operation for the department. And like I said, we're going to just make our way through this.
To the board, anybody else have either comments to add or questions before we move on?
I think it's more of a general question. As Nick mentioned, it's been a while since we last met, and I think the rhythm we were in, we actually had the last meeting we had was really upbeat meeting. It was the one where we had cleared, the milestone and the funding milestone, and the discussion was more grounded on this initiative that we'd started on, which was just like more of a strategic planning going into how do we want the library services to evolve, especially now that we're in this new capacity, potentially to have a much bigger presence and a bigger offering for the community. And we started taking pen to paper and, try to get something off the ground. And it was, I think where we were essentially stalled was trying to get Franklin to bring some feedback or try to connect what was effectively seemed like a different bodies working on how to design, the new building, what type of services would be offered, and try to just feed, as much as we could in terms of what would be helpful for the consideration in terms of changes and how the library would evolve from here. Dan, what would be the best way to keep that going? Obviously, if Nick is plugging in, we can kind of have like a catch-up session in terms of what's been discussed so far. There wasn't much of a net new development on the vision and the strategy we would want to pursue. So it was pretty ground level. But I think it would be great, at least certainly from the board enthusiasm, energy standpoint. It was a kind of a moment of, okay, this group is obviously volunteering their time trying to shape. As you were saying, we're trying to bring our own perspective, the community's perspective in and help get the library services to hopefully evolve into something really cool for the community. And would love to kind of know how you would like us to proceed on that.
So I'll have to go back and watch your conversation because I'm not I'm not heavily familiar with it. Franklin had briefed me that he was working on a strategic plan. I sort of viewed that as having two separate components to it that are related to one another. One is sort of the operational model now and into the future. And then there was also the facilities question and how to marry the two together in the most efficient way, recognizing the grant constrains us from certain decisions we might otherwise make. So I'll go back and look at your conversation, and maybe we can talk about this more at your next meeting. When we talk about the building in a little bit, we can talk a little more about where we are and where we're going and how the library board will have its opportunities to be engaged.
Yeah. And we can honestly save you the however many hours of video footage you want to go watch. We could synthesize it quite a bit here, right? Like there really was a desire to move on this. And I think the team, there's a document which Jonathan can share. He has the master doc that essentially grabbed everyone's input in terms of what we saw as like strengths and things that we could leverage and things that, you know, kind of how do we acknowledge that there's all these different libraries that are within close proximity, right? The Corte Madera, et cetera. What do we want to be known for, right? What are the things that we want to lean into as kind of like the key components and how we want the library to serve the community. So I think that doc kind of does a lot of the synthesis and saving you a bunch of time. And we're all obviously here and available if you ever want to just touch base and catch up on any of it.
Okay.
But the work itself never took off. Like we never really got a chance to cook it in a meaningful way.
Okay, well, definitely we'll follow up.
So can we just capture that as a specific topic for the next meeting, whenever that is? That's great. And Dan and Nick, I'll share to you both the Google Doc that we have.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Anything else? Last call, and then we move on.
I just have a brief question regarding something that you said, Dan. You mentioned that we have a part-time librarian now, plus 2 full-time librarians, and that the third librarian is almost hired. Is that third librarian going to be in addition to the 2.5 we have, or in replacement of the half?
So the part-time person is a substitute librarian that we use from time to time, and we basically asked her if she would be willing to step in because we felt like we needed more help, and she was willing to do that. So so she's not part of our regular staff, but she's familiar to a lot of the community because she's in the library a lot helping out. I know her name's Catherine, but I forget her last name. I apologize. Nick might remember. But the person we're hiring is a permanent position. So we'll be back to 3 permanent librarians. And I'm sure the board's seen in the past, we've kind of broken the library functions into 3 general areas. So in addition to being able to cross-train and we hire generalists and we ask our librarians to be able to do anything we need them to do, but we do give them areas of core responsibility. And so once we bring this third person back in, we can rebalance the load for the 3 day-to-day out on the floor librarians.
Okay. Very good, thank you.
And it's a challenging market, so
one last
we're
question.
really pleased.
It used to be that we had a regular city council representative who was coming to the meetings, and it was very helpful in terms of facilitating the conversation between the city council and us, so that we could get precision during our conversation of something that we didn't know, and at the same time the city council member could incorporate our conversation, our desires, or whatever we reported from what we had heard from the public to the city council. And it's not always crucial, but I think that because we are in transition, because the position seems to be in need of revisions, And because we have a new building coming, that will mean the opportunity to have a completely different program. It would be really good to have everybody working together as much as possible and having a regular city council representative. We know who that person is. We can reach out to them. We know they're going to come, is really great. The same way we have the supporting friends of the library. Barbara always come. And it really makes it a lot easier for everybody in Larkspur, all the residents, the patrons, to get information and for us to get the accurate information and also to feel that we are a team. So I don't know if there is a representative who's been assigned, but it would be good if one were assigned and if we knew who it was and if that person could come.
So Mayor Paulson will be making his appointments on January 18, and I'll convey the board's wishes to see the member present.
They're good. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Armel. Okay, let's go to item 5.2, the Commons project update, also from you, Dan.
Yeah, so I wanted to let the board know where things stand at the moment. The city's retained a project management team, construction manager in particular. It's a company called Kitchell. They're a rather large company. They do a lot of public buildings. So we're really pleased to have them on board. Both Julian Skinner and I have worked with them before. They were actually the construction management group that did the police building on Doherty. So they've been in Larkspur before. And what they've done to help us prepare our documents to start soliciting proposals from architects and construction teams, development teams, they've been interviewing the staff for technical information. And so frankly, I actually had an opportunity to participate in several of those interviews before he left. Kitchell's using an architect and 2 engineers to prepare all these documents that are going to be published, soliciting proposals from firms that specialize in the development of libraries. We expect and are hopeful that the what we would call a request for qualifications, which is the first step in the process we're using, will go out into the public eye and out into the development world, either at the end of this month or early in February. It'll be out for publication for about 2 months, and we'll be soliciting responses. Once those are in, the team will rank them and we'll select finalists. And then those finalists will participate in a public process to propose what they would do to design and construct a library. And at this point, with the council's direction, it's going to be more of a campus. We're going to do the library and city offices. And we're really excited about that because it's going to allow us to more than triple the amount of programming space available to the public by going with this route. The grant constrains us to only build the same types of facilities we had in our current location. So we could only really have as programming space, a space roughly the size of the city council chamber. By marrying the 2 projects together, we're proposing that the add-on facility that includes the city offices would have 1 or 2 large multi-purpose rooms that would be available for programming to the library. So it's been my experience in my 12 years and multiple processes to engage the public about the library facility that one of the top demands is meeting space and programming space. And so that's why I'm particularly keen on this idea. Once we have a development team in, once the council and with input from the Commons Foundation has selected someone, then that development team will start interviewing stakeholders. And I would expect that's when you would have your opportunity for direct engagement with who's going to develop the library. We're not doing a huge public process this time to create the development, the plans, the specifications or design for the library. We've done so much work. We feel we have a pretty good handle at this point on what people want and what they don't want. But we will have key stakeholders giving the design team feedback to make sure everything stays on track. We also just don't have the time to do a significant public engagement process because of the constraints of the grant itself. The good news is we're finding the state library, although it's probably one of the less well-organized grant organizations I've dealt with. It's also the most flexible one I've ever dealt with. So we have a single point of contact who seems to have a lot of authority to say yes or no to the questions that we have. So we've been bouncing a lot of ideas off of him about how we can work with these two projects in conjunction so that we get one beautiful commons area for the community. And he's been very receptive to us merging different ideas and different pots of money, provided we can show the state exactly how we spend its dollars. So that's pretty exciting to us because we were really worried we'd get something we're more accustomed to, which is a very rigid and inflexible approach to grant money. So the current timetable, then we expect that we would put our document out in roughly 4 weeks out into the design world, and we would start soliciting proposals. I'm cautiously optimistic we'd see 8 to 10 proposals based on our past experiences. And if that proves to be the case, I wouldn't be surprised if the council asked us to whittle it down to 3 or 4 finalists who would do a full presentation to the public and the council. The council and the Commons Foundation are discussing how they'll work together to make that final selection, given the Commons Foundation has done the fundraising for the 5 million that's at the core of our funding. And so that discussion's ongoing as well. But however that mechanism is, it's intended that everybody's working together as one. And I don't have any reason to think that won't be the case. The only other thing that we're working on too is we're trying to figure out what's the best and healthiest way to make sure that we respect the neighborhood where the property is located. And so we are having some engagement with the Rose Lane Homeowners Association and working out some details there so that they have some very technical concerns, and then they have some aesthetics and engagement concerns that they want to deal with. So it's all very positive. We're really excited. And frankly, I think the next 2 years are going to be really exciting and a lot of fun. With that, I can answer what questions I can.
It sounds great, Dan. Thank you. If this goes very well, for our next board meeting, what do you expect the next step to be, or what do you expect to progress over the course of the next month that we could look to at the next meeting?
Well, one thing that has surprised me in the past is how many members of our community seem to know architects who do library work. So I'm guessing that once these documents are ready and you have questions for me about them, some of you might know architects and are going to start to encourage them, if not them to participate in our process, ask them who should be participating in our process and make sure that these documents end up in their hands so that we get a proposal from them. I know last time at least 3 of the proposers said someone in our community had personally called them and encouraged them to submit something.
Hey, Dan, my only question, if you look at, over the last several months with everything the Commons Foundation's done, everything kind of in conjunction with council, which I think has been really transparent. There's been articles in the IJ about what's going on. We've seen all the notes from council meetings. I mean, is there, I know we're not, doing a full-on engagement, but what are kind of the plans just to maintain a level of transparency to the community and kind of keep them in the loop, so to speak, with kind of how this is progressing? Is there anything specific to that?
Yeah, I think there'd be 2 tracks there, and I left out the Commons Foundation would really like to see the indoor-outdoor flow and the landscaping of the property take on a really beautiful aesthetic that's probably not in the current budget. So you probably are aware they've announced a fundraising campaign, excuse me, to try to come up with more money for that particular aspect of the project. And I think what we'll probably be doing is the Commons Foundation will be doing a lot of outreach to their constituency, keeping them engaged and informed and excited about the opportunities. And then on our side, we'll be doing a lot of regular, here's the state of the project, here's what's coming next, here's how you can be involved. Eventually, whoever's in this management position for the library will play a pivotal role in sort of being a champion and a cheerleader for the project. But we are trying really hard to make sure everybody knows exactly what's going on. So I hope I answered the question, but the other thing is you're probably all aware, Ann Morrison is now the president of the Commons Foundation. And obviously Ann and I have a long relationship, and I expect we'll be able to make use of that to move things along. Ann would be here tonight, I know, but she's out of the country.
Great, thanks.
Hey, Dan, maybe I'll just plus one that Andy's comment. Could we, is it possible for us to just formalize something more? I mean, I think it came from Armel, it came from Andy, you know, myself, I'm sure Jonathan would plus one this, and Jeff maybe. I think just getting some formal comm stream going between us, and there's sort of like a opening that up in a way that at least we can figure out how to, we can plug in. We're happy to help, right, in terms of synthesis. I don't know what type of comms already goes out to the community, but it is something that I think you have the information, Dan, probably synthesize that we could. It's just about packaging and distribution. We'd love to help if we can.
Certainly, but you have to bear in mind there won't be a lot of information until there's a development team, until we've hired somebody, because there won't be a vision for exactly how we're moving and where we're going until we've hired somebody. So right now I've really shared with you the main information, which is we're about to launch a process to solicit those proposals, and it'll culminate in some sort of public meeting where the finalists get a chance to explain why they're the right people to build this project for us. And then it's really at that point that I think the vision takes off and the engagement takes off, because that team's going to want to hear from key people in the community, and they're going to want to make sure they don't misstep along the way. So I think we'll be able to offer you more once, you know, come around April or May when we've hired somebody.
Got it. Yeah. That sounds good, and we can follow this up and just even what you just described, I think is great information, right? Like,
I mean, to sort of just illustrate a little further, the Kitchell team that I mentioned that we're engaging right now, their questions are things like, well, right now, how many computers do you offer to the public, and how big is the seating area where they get to sit? You know, and we're getting out tape measures and looking at that stuff, and you know, they walked into the tech room, sort of said, "Oh my God," and then started to kind of figure out what's a proper tech room space for a small library. And it's not our space, it's definitely something different from that. And simple questions like, you know, how many doors do you think you need for the public? How many do you need for the staff that aren't available to the public? How many bathrooms are we going to have? You know, it's a lot of that type of stuff right now, and it's not really into where any of those things will actually be and how they'll look.
Yeah. My quick suggestion is maybe we can, even if it's like on the Larkspur Library website, somewhere we can just start kind of logging status updates, even what you just described. I think it's perfect. Like it's great, just the latest and greatest, and it's easily accessible to the public. People can self-serve, and if they come to us, because like, look, everything you need to know is right here, you know, and that's kind of like does a nice job of being transparent and sharing all this stuff.
Yeah, so eventually with our capital projects, we usually launch a separate website just for the capital projects. So we'll do that. definitely at some point. I don't have a timetable yet for it though.
And I actually had a similar question. So in the meantime, prior to the launch of the Capitol specific website, how would the public learn, or where would they go to find this? Like, obviously our minutes are public. They can come to a city council meeting, that's public, but is there an outbound communication process that currently exists or that you'll, utilize?
I have a lot of resources on the city side. I have to delve in with the staff about what they're using besides social media to touch patrons. So I'll have to check.
But social media is great. I mean, even if it's the process, which is like the very beginning point of this before, a vendor is selected. Is that something that will go out on social media, just keeping public up to date if they're following our socials?
I'll take, it sounds like you're interested in that. I'll take it under advisement and talk to my team about it.
I would recommend that if we don't put it on the library website, then putting it in our social channels, I think is also good. So
Well, if I may, there is already a place that exists where information about the new library is published. It's the Commons Foundation website, which is to raise funds, but that's a space where information on the completion or on the way to completion project, people have been told for the past 4 or 5 years to go there for information on the new library. So it seems to be an already learned reflex where people are told, go to the Commons Foundation website and to continue having information there instead of creating a brand new, well, you can if you want, but this is the obvious already existing place where information is already poured regarding that project.
I'll mention that to Anne. I don't, the city doesn't have anything to do with that website, so.
Correct. Yes, but there are some information about the site, about the vision, about a few things that can be either removed if it's no longer accurate or updated. It exists. It's just, and people already know to go there for information, which is most important. They don't have to learn a new habit.
Yep. Anything else on that topic? Okay, Dan, thank you.
Welcome.
It gets us to point 6, status reports from library support groups. I know Barbara is here. I know Anne is not here. So shall we hear from Barbara Friday?
It's nice to see everybody. I wanted to mention what a pleasure it's been to work with Nick, and that his presence in the library has been a really welcome one by the staff and, by people who use the library every day. So thanks, Nick, for your hard work. So December was really busy. I think, Nick, you talked a little bit about this as I was logging on. We had 100 patrons come to the Book Passage Tea on December 3rd. So that was a really nice event. And we had also on the solstice, that nice coffee and cookie event, which everyone really seemed to enjoy. I think you mentioned that, Nick. I just didn't want to not mention it because the staff had enjoyed it very much and felt wonderful about it. And people came to me and said, thank you. We've also had a very, I must say, I personally enjoyed all the activities that went on in December to honor Joe Jennings. And out of my dining room window, I can see the tree lights in the Piper Park, and they're delightful. I don't know how long they're up, but I personally vote for them to like be there until the time changes. So they're lots of fun. So thank you all who have given during the season of giving. It was very successful. So that was a bit of a outreach to our public and for their year-end giving. And we did a really nice job getting some money for the library. And so I'm not really ready to announce, but I guess I might. I'll just let you know, after expenses, we raised $13,000. So the money's always there for the library to use.
That is good.
I don't know if you've seen the most recent edition of Among Friends, but that's a wonderful online newsletter that goes out to all of our members. And anybody whose email we have, we're pretty, Catholic about the distribution. We get it out to as many people as possible. And we did include Dan's announcement about the transition there. And I did get a call today from Lori Lerner, actually, who had not had that news yet. So, Among Friends was how she heard about it. She also mentioned to me, Dan, while you're on, if you don't mind me mentioning, she'd love to be part of the process, in the interview process, or in looking for a new management person. So she just asked me to pass that along. And of course, someone as invested as she and her husband Terry, she, it's a very important person, particularly with her library background. She too wanted to help. Let's see. Our plans for the new year include our membership campaign, which is timed with Valentine's Day. So you'll see that, as will all of our members. We are planning to do touch trucks again in May. So we'll reach out to all of our library support groups and ask for, volunteer participation and planning participation. We did get a nice bonus, or not a bonus, but a thank you to the staff relative to the holidays. And I've received nice thank you cards back. So we recognize, how hard they worked in 2022 and wanted to say thank you for the holidays. Let's see. We're having the carpets cleaned at the end of January in the library. And we've also, God, I'm so embarrassed about this, you guys, but I'll tell you, just FYI, and I can see Nick grimacing a little bit. This is the wildest thing, but the Friends of the Larkspur Library purchased 4 leather chairs, comfortable leather chairs for the meeting area in the library. And it was our company, our logistics company let us know that they were delivered, but in fact, they never showed up. So we're looking for, we've escalated the question, where are our damn chairs, up to resolution, and we're hoping for an answer very soon. But there should be chairs on the way to make our patrons more comfortable, because the library staff has definitely been hearing that they do want, chairs so they can sit down and enjoy their library experience. So I think that's everything that I have to relate. Is there any questions you guys have for me?
I don't have any questions, but as always, I appreciate everything that you and the Friends do, Barbara. So thank you, as always.
Yes, quite welcome. And it's really a privilege to serve our library and this important resource for the community. We're all very dedicated and very passionate about it. Thank you guys as well, because I know that this board shares that sentiment.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thanks, Barbara.
Welcome.
Okay, so without Ann Morrison present, is there anybody else from the Commons Foundation in her place? Nick, anybody else on?
There's nobody in the audience. No.
Okay. Got it. Okay, well, that takes us to the next agenda item, future agenda items, where we can all recommend and request future agenda items and also establish the next meeting date. And we've already spoken about some items to recur. But the floor is now open for additional agenda item requests.
I think that we need to make sure that you decide on where we're going to meet in March.
Mhm.
Unless we want to decide where we're going to meet in February now, but it's not on the agenda, so I'm not sure we can do that now.
Yeah, plus one that, and maybe the when. I think if
Yeah.
we can also talk about timing. like
Yeah,
the
yeah, let's confirm the February time. And on the February meeting, let's have our decision for the March protocol, in person or other.
So it should be February 13th.
Yes, next regular meeting would be Monday, February 13th at 6:15.
does this timing work best for everyone, or is there a preference or ability to move this to like a 5 o'clock?
Yeah, 5's tough for me.
Five's a little harder for me as well.
Okay,
Just with work.
never mind. This works for me. I can do it.
We start at 6:15. I mean, a little, I could do 6 or other than 6:15 if that's helpful. I don't, Andy or others. If you're trying to move it up.
I'm flexible and could do almost anything, but 6 would be fine with me too, if you guys want to go a little earlier.
Me too. Very, very flexible. So whatever works best for you, Dad, is good for me.
That sounds good.
Dan and
I'm,
Nick,
I'm-
is there a-
I'm the only one. I'm the only one in the group with still a tiny, with an early bedtime. It's everyone else has moved on to bigger things in life.
moved on to bigger children?
Yes.
Nick and Dan, fine with you for a 6 o'clock start?
Yeah, I think that would work.
Okay. See Dan nodding his head. All right, that's good. So we'll do that. Nick, you control the calendar invite, correct? So will you adjust that?
Correct. Yeah, Dan, can you confirm that I can switch that time to 6 o'clock without? Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yep. I'll take care of it.
All right, awesome. Just to reiterate and make sure it's captured, earlier in the call, we talked about picking up the conversation around just strategy and, the whole scope, mission, impact the library can have. The offer was made, Dan, to synthesize and give you some shortcut and teacher's edition to the any backlog. Of course, by all means, view previous meetings, but let's make sure that's included as an agenda item for next meeting, please.
Will do.
Yeah, and why don't we put one on to decide for March's meeting as well, just what we want to do.
Yep.
I don't think it's an agenda item, but what I would like to reiterate, if we could make sure that at next meeting, we have, in addition to Barbara, who is always there, we also have the Larkspur Foundation, whose support is very important, and it's going to be even more important going forward, as there is always extra cost when there is a move in a new building, and also that invitation to attend is sent to the appropriate city council member, so that we have a full group and we can make decisions or have conversations with every information we need. And also, it would be good if we had the agenda and the minutes earlier than a couple days before, especially the minutes, so that we can review them while the meeting is still fresh. It's a lot easier to make corrections and to have an accurate I know it's recorded, so it's kind of, but we don't have access to the recording. So in order to approve them, we need to read them. In order to read them and remember what happened, the earlier the better.
Excellent. Yeah, I'll get the October minutes out to you guys as soon as they're available, and then I'll send them with the minutes from this meeting as well.
That's great. That's great, Nick.
Excellent. Thank you, Nick. Appreciate that.
Of course.
Jeff, anything on your mind? Any requests you've got?
No, I think you guys have it covered, so that's great. I'm happy to meet in person in February or do another one last Zoom thing. So whatever is comfortable with all you guys, I'm fine with.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I could do in person in February as well.
+1. I'm happy to meet in person.
Same as me.
It works. It should work with me.
Okay. So,
Actually, not going to work for me on the 13th. I'm not here.
okay. But can we do a hybrid where, you know, we're in City Hall, those who can come in person, Armel, you dial in? Can we do that?
I don't think I can even dial in. I think I have another function happening that day.
Okay. Yeah, we would have quorum without you, so we could.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
And Armel, I thought that was a great idea to encourage you know, a meeting that always had somebody from the Commons like Joe always did. And Ann will be great. She's terrific to work with. And I'm thrilled that Joe's passing the torch to Ann Morrison for doing this, because she'll be really good.
Yeah. Well, it's good. This is a library commission or board or whatever, where all information, if all the information relevant to the library could be shared at this point, then the public and ourselves and everybody involved knows that on the second Monday of the month, this is where library matters are presented. And we were talking about communication. If that becomes a habit, then the effort of having an extra website or anything else is still there, but cut in half, because people know where to go and what video to watch. So
I just wanted to mention, Nick, that maybe I could get the email as well, because I'm attending as general public tonight and rather than a library support group. So, you know, it needs to go to the foundation and and me and the Commons as well.
yes.
Perfect.
Yes, it should really include all 5 trustees, plus the Commons, plus the Library Foundation, plus the Friends, plus whichever city council members is representing the council. And all these 9 people should get the invitation at the same time. This way, everybody knows where they're going to be on Monday.
Yep.
Perfect.
I have another topic as a possible suggestion. I'll put it out there and we can discuss or just put it on, which is an update on the fundraise, which has been a consistent theme. You know, and as Amir mentioned, you know, we celebrated, you know, some of the accomplishments, but to the extent that there are still or new and ongoing fundraise efforts, I think it's helpful to just have a review of those. So we know where they stand and also how we can help and be encouraging, you know, their progress.
Yes.
Does that sound good to everybody?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We're going to need a lot of enthusiasm and excitement from everybody and the whole public. So if we keep showing that fundraising is going well and all the good things that are happening, and we just monthly have a positive report of progress, I think that will help get the optimism up.
I agree. Momentum is contagious, but it needs
Yes.
to be communicated. So
Right.
let's amplify that. Okay, last call for any other future agenda items.
I have something, then I'm going to stop. what if in the library there were a little sign saying that the library board which is open to the public, is happening every second Monday, so that the numerous member of the public who show up every month will just multiply by whatever number, would be exponential. If we really want everybody to know where to go and get the information, let's just put it right there where they go and use the library. Just say meeting is on. I'm sure most of the people don't know that this is happening. Just a little sign.
Yeah, we could put some information out.
Just a little sign saying, have questions about the library? Log in or tune to the library board meeting on Mondays.
Yep, absolutely.
Let's get the patrons excited.
Great, thank you, Armel. Unless are there any other future agenda items that covers item 7, which the next item is the next meeting date, which we've now set. It's the 13th, it's at 6, and we will do it at City Hall in person. I look forward to that. And with that, we can adjourn our meeting. I ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I second.
Okay, done. And thank you, everybody. Nick, thank you. Dan, thank you. Fellow members, great to see you all.
Thank you.
You
Thank
well?
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
See you
you,
in a month.
Stefan.
Yes,
Good night,
thanks
everyone.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Take care. Thank you.
See ya.